Welcome to this episode of Erasing Shame. I'm your co-host, DJ Chuang, and I'm joined today with Pastor Jin Lee in Atlanta. We just connected this week. We had a very invigorating conversation, and I'm so happy to share it with you. Pastor Jin, welcome to Erasing Shame.
Thank you, GJ. I really have a kindred spirit with you. I feel like we're brothers for a long time.
Well, God has a way of arranging divine appointments. And one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on social media and on the web is this amazing ministry called Mustard Seed Generations. I've been following it for just around a year. And it is a very, very valuable and helpful ministry that's supporting and educating Christians and churches in the Korean American community about mental health. And so I would love to have you share about how you got involved as a pastor and as a board member.
Sure, thank you. I recently came across Mustard Seed Generation 2 years ago, so I'm not that long into the ministry, but when I found that, it really was a sweet spot of three things that was dear to my heart. One is faith-based. You don't have a lot of faith-based mental health. And then the other one is it focuses really professionally at high level on excellence of mental health and really balanced, right? Because on the pendulum, you have this too conservative, too liberal view of mental health, where it's, just medicine, just that would solve everything, or just pray it out, right? But Mustard is very unique, it's right in the middle, balancing both the mental health aspect as well as the faith aspect. Then also, Mustard Seed is zeroing on particularly in the API, but more laser focus on Korean American. And so that was just a godsend. And I run a nonprofit in Atlanta, Georgia. Post COVID, at the height of it, a lot of our volunteers that are Asian Americans were just coming to me and saying, "Mr. Lee, I can't continue being a volunteer." And they were crying. Literally, high school students were crying and just meeting. I apologize, I can't continue. There's too much pressure. And so a lot of mental health within the Asian American. I really didn't have a lot of resource to lean on in Atlanta. Well, I'm sorry, I apologize. There are some, but it happened. I was on Facebook and Mustard Seed, and I looked interested, and they were having a national summit similar to the one that we're having December 8th. But I attended, was really moved. Met Dr. Joe. I mean, perfect bilingual, engaging, high content, and she really handled herself so well in presenting in a faith with grace, and so I was really moved by that, and took a big risk and emailed the ED and said, "Hey, I'd love to learn more," and that's how I got started. Just saying, I want to learn more, and how can I help you? And then slowly I volunteered here and there, and then became a board member about a year and a half ago, and thoroughly enjoyed every bit of the experience, and just whatever I can do to help people like me that didn't know, right? Pastors or church leaders that are need to know and need to grow or need resource in this area. And I really want to champion that, to magnify and broadcast the work of Mustard Seed Generation. And it is a wonderful tool that I feel like as a pastor I have to help my people. Not only that, but I feel like it is an evangelical opportunity as we engage the injustice that we see all around, right? And one particular injustice I feel is really, and this is the statistics I learned from Mustard Seed through the mental health training I attended. Korean American makes 3% of the population, but the suicide rate is 30%. This is annually.
Oh, goodness.
That means roughly, I did the calculation, 125 Korean American are committing suicide yearly.
Wow.
We are losing 125 Korean American, gone, right? And that statistic haunted me for like several days, and I just like,
Mm, mm,
much is given, much is required, and I feel like that is, if we're giving information, we can't just sit aside idly. We got to be,
yeah.
as Ezekiel says, watchmen, right? Watchmen,
Yes.
looking out, being vigilant, and looking at the times and doing something. And that is the call, I believe, of faith Christians. We are wired to be in area that's injustice and make justice, right? Make salvation happen, not only personally, but
Hmm.
salvation, redemption, and sanctification around our community and around our people. And I feel like this is such a important, hidden, unnoticed, untalked about in the local church, and
Hmm.
particularly, as you know, in the Korean American churches, as well as API churches. You know, I don't remember, as I grew up as a youth in our first generation. I don't remember my dad was a pastor. My dad's a pastor. I
Hmm.
don't remember a sermon on mental health, or even a
Hmm.
Bible study on mental health.
Hmm.
Right? And so it's a great opportunity where I feel we as Christians, particularly Korean American, as we API, need to stand in the gap
Yes.
and
Yes.
be some kind of bridge of hope to our
Yes.
congregation, to a nation that's going on, aside.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Well, thank you. So let's double click and drill down on this a bit. So
yeah.
Mustard Seed Generation has for years offered trainings and seminars in person as well as online, and certainly during the pandemic, exclusively online. And you mentioned how this national summit was one of the first opportunities that got you engaged, both as a business leader and a pastor. And how did you take that learning and apply it to your church community? Because it's such a difficult topic to talk about mental health in Asian and Korean communities. How do you break the ice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, right now, because the word mental health is, because of COVID, one of the redeeming things of the COVID silver lining was mental health. At least the word is broadcasted among communities, schools, and whatnot, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
being heard, right? For
Mm-hmm.
the EM, it is something that's in the conversation, so they're not afraid to
Okay.
talk about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think in the first generation, it's a little bit more challenging. There's a stigma to it. They're unfamiliar with it, and also they don't have authority to talk about it, right? For the pastors, and so I have a deeper concern for the Korean community. So one of the big things that I've been doing, a big proponent, was um, Master Seed Generation strategically, how they're going to break barriers was to align themselves with existing local churches that throughout the United States. You and
Mm-hmm.
I know that church is the first center of healing, of hope. And statistics have shown that 25% of the local church are a place of help. So a
Yes.
non-believer or believer will go to church for asking for help if it has to do with mental health, right? At least there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the case, and as you know, for Asian American, church is not just a religious institution; it's culture, it's social gathering, and so
Mm-hmm.
there is these beachheads all across the United States. Rather than us trying to develop local, counseling centers, why not align ourselves with training the church pastors who are the gatekeepers of
Mm-hmm.
programs in that church? And so Mustard Seed invests quite a bit in developing a online training, and we have trained 100 and little bit over 101 church leaders. I think 4 cohorts,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's something super proud of Mustard Seed. That's nationwide. That
Mm-hmm.
anybody and it's also worldwide, because we have people join from Korea, China, and other missionaries has joined the training, and I think that is something that Mustard Seed has done a tremendous job of incorporating. And also, they have also done in person before COVID, but because of post COVID, we have really hunkered down on online training, and so we have done first aid training, first aid mental health training. We have done um, church leader training, and
Mm-hmm.
we're probably gonna roll that out more, I think, in the next year, to maybe even
Mm-hmm.
double the amount that we have served this past year. I think we have
That's great.
done 4 cohorts of mental health training for church leaders. Yeah.
That's great. And I'll go ahead and mention your website for Mustard Seed Generation. It's just
Yeah.
mustardseedgeneration.org.
Yeah.
And
Or more simple, if you type in lovemsg.org, you can get to the same thing.
okay,
Yeah.
few letters. Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Love MSG. So that's kind of a nuance of MSG, right? We
Yes.
Koreans love MSG, right?
Hey, well, Chinese do too. I'm Chinese, and the training almost has to happen at. I'm thinking out loud and just responding to what you're
Yes.
describing. You do have to train and persuade the pastors so that they understand the theological as well as the holistic perspective of who we are as humans. I love that you're doing it bilingually because we need to bring that whole family and the generation together. So you're providing everything practically, from what I can see, everything including your social media is bilingual. So there's the Korean characters and the English in a very balanced and beautiful way. So done excellently. The founders were part of Harvard educated, so that has a lot of credibility and reliability, which is helpful. So it's not just hobbyists or people with lived experience, although they also bring valuable stories and experience into this. And then you want to train church leaders and maybe lay people to continue implementing the things that can happen in the church, because just information isn't enough to help people in their recovery and care and support.
Right.
Is that an accurate description of the various things that MSG does?
Yeah, you're right on. And thank you for accentuating about the bilingual portion of MSG. They are probably intentional about all of their printed materials and everything to be bilingual. So they've done the training bilingual so that any Korean speaking comfortable language. We even had their own group, small group training with Korean counselors, and that led that session, coaches that would lead that session. And then also our session is not only for pastors. We had a lot of youth teachers join us. A lot of children's ministry teachers, deacons have joined us, and so it's a gamut of those key leaders that lead and move the church. We know it's not just only the pastors. There's teachers and youth directors and whatnot. So they have joined our mental health, and every one of them, our satisfaction rate from our people that have taken our training is 98%, which is pretty phenomenal for any, right? And so feedback, and they're, it's what's really interesting is when they go through that training, they hunger for more. They want more practical tips. How do we? And so we're kind of struggling on those things too. But I think I'm excited for the new year on diving deeper in each area of the need of the mental health.
Well, thank you. So among the hundreds of people you have trained, can you describe a church that has really taken that to heart and developed some programs or community or putting it in action in terms of what they've learned? Do they go on and teach others, or what more have some of your leading churches done?
Great. So one of the church that sent a lot of attendees was Bethel Church in Northeast, I think, Washington area. So they're a Korean American church with EM. And we did a pilot test of consulting with that church. After the training happened, our people went to that church, met with the leadership, KM pastor, EM pastor, how to start their own mental health ministry there. So it's just very fresh, very fresh. It's our pilot. We're still looking at it, developing it better and better. But the Mustard Seed did that this past fall. Yeah, and so we are doing follow-ups, getting data, but we sent three mental health professionals from our team. One that spoke fluent in Korean, Miss Migyung was our Korean, and then Jess Jessica Kim and also Dr. Sam went out as a team,
Mhm.
representing Mustard Seed and what the wealth of learning, and they presented a wonderful two-night, 3 day retreat for the EM and KM leaders that will attend, and so we're looking forward to how that could be part of our program. It's a beta and it's a pilot, but we're
Mhm.
looking at that to maybe roll out if a church wants to, to really see a mental health ministry within their church. I think Mustard Seed is willing to be a support and help that roll out.
Oh, fantastic. That gives
Yeah.
me so much more hope and enthusiasm. So I've done a bit of research. So Mustard
Yeah.
Seed Generation is definitely one of the leading pioneer in the country in developing Christian Asian mental health, which is the initiative that I am a part of with Erasing Shame and Asian American Christian Collaborative. So we really praise God for how He has moved in your midst to really do the things that you have already done and are still developing. And in my working notebook, in my blueprint, there's 4 things that churches can do. And you've already kind of paved the way for all 4. One is addressing it in their sermons. 2 is sharing stories, lived experience, which normalizes and erases stigma.
Right.
And then 3, seminars. People need to educate how it connects with our faith and community. And the 4th, support groups. One of the unique things that churches can provide is the sense of community and belonging and people that share the burden, just like Bible says, share our burdens with one another. And those are things unique to the church that medicine and therapy cannot do alone.
Right.
And so by bringing all that together, we can truly be the light and the hope to the many of us in our Asian communities as well as outside, because we're just as human as anybody else. And
Right.
so if the statistics are right, 20 to 25% of us as Asians struggle with mental health on an annual basis.
Right.
And so they're just sitting on their pews. We don't know their stories except the pastor behind closed doors. So we want to carefully and wisely open that door and help people to experience the freedom and the healing and the support that a church community can provide. Now, the work to do all of this takes a lot of prayer, a lot of wisdom. It's pioneering work. We don't have books and degrees to learn all of this, so we're learning as we go. And so, how does MSG operate as a ministry? And I think you've got a fundraising effort coming up. That's really exciting to hear.
Right, right. So, another hat that I play is I lead a nonprofit, and I know how nonprofit runs. And the Mustard Seed is a 501(c) tax deductible nonprofit, so it needs to be accountable to the board. So we have a board, and one of the things I learned for a nonprofit to have excellent program and continue that is you need a 24-hour person. That's their job, that moves that ball forward and progress, right?
Mm,
And it can't be volunteers, right?
mm,
And so asking someone to put 40 hours of the work and then volunteer for Mustard Seed, which they did for the last 10 years, I think. They've all volunteer run after the Dr.
amazing.
Joseph Kim
Mhm.
started in 2007. They just did it pure volunteerism. Just recently, within the last 2 years, they've hired a full-time Sharon
Mm,
as executive director, who her time and energy was to develop a lot of these programs, because it takes a lot of time and energy,
mhm,
to develop
mhm,
trainings and translation and whatnot. And
mhm,
so funding is the fuel that progresses, causes, and changes. It really is.
mm,
And so one of the things that we are trying to do, if we want to reach another doubling on the number of trainees, because we know the trickling effect, if we do move it from the national level of training these church leaders, we know it's going to connect with the local level and local movement.
mhm,
And that's what we want to
mhm,
see. And so if we want to make that change, we do need to raise funds so that we can hire and develop quality work. I think one of the gifting that sets MSC apart is they develop content that can reach down to the local level, right? It's
wow.
of
Mhm,
excellence. It's behind by faith. right? And the
Mm-hmm.
quality of the work that they do is with professionalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we want that level of professionalism, there needs to be fuel to that. And that fuel, I believe, is funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nonprofit. And so yeah, so the December 8th coming up is a fundraising event that it's gonna be really the first 30-letter fundraiser. It's gonna be fun. We have games, we have raffle going on. We have 3 different speakers coming, and just hidden for your audience, we have Miss America giving the opening address, and just her journey,
Wow.
Korean American. Korean
Mm-hmm.
American that also personally has shared her story about mental health for her, and so
Mm-hmm.
we're excited about that. But it's going to be 1 hour of fun-filled learning, connecting, and hearing this cause. Now, part of that, they'll be sharing the white paper of the research that we have done, and that'll be shared for the first time publicly. So you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get connected with great people, and then you're going to win some prizes and have some fun. And it can't be a better way. And that was the moment. That's exactly like me. I attended one 2 years ago, just that 1 hour, and it changed my life forever, right? Because of Mustard Seed, I do ministry differently. I run my nonprofit. Matter of fact, we have prioritized my mental health in our organization. And then the way I live life is different because of MSG. And I feel like if your audience would just join us on December 8th and just engage. That's all I'm asking,
Yes.
I think. Just engage
Yes.
and learn. Yeah.
Well, we invite our audience here at Erasing Shame and Christian Asian Mental Health Collective, and also Asian American Christian Collaborative, to join this virtual fundraiser. What's the time and date?
Yeah, December 8th.
Yes.
And you can go to lovemsg.org. If you go to the very top, there is the registration that will link you to the registration. And I believe it's 7 o'clock, 7 to 8. But
that'll be East Coast time?
Yes, East Coast time. I want to make sure I don't give the wrong information.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're nationwide, we always have to be conscious of the time zone.
Right, exactly. So I take that back. 7:30 Eastern time. 7:30, December 8th, 7:30. If there's also any mental health professions, we do have exclusive mental health professionals have a 30-minute early meeting. If they want to join that, they can join that too. If they're in counseling, if they're in the mental health profession, social worker, any of those categories, they can come 7 o'clock and have a very private time with just mental health professions. And at 7:30, it will be open to everybody to join and learn about Mustard Seed Generation.
Well, thank you for being so generous with sharing your resources and how God's blessed you. And we pray that God will continue to bless you and provide, because this is such a important work in our time and in our generation. Now, I'm not Korean American, I confess. I'm Chinese. And there's so much that we can learn for the other 30-some Asian American communities. And I hope that those who are Chinese, Vietnamese, Indian, Japanese, Hmong, Thai, and so on can also participate in Mustard Seed Generation for the virtual fundraiser and other program. Would that be okay?
Oh yes. I think we will be, as Jesus said, therefore go make disciples from Jerusalem, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Even though it might be Korean American as our Jerusalem, Mustard Seed has the next circumference, in mind, because English is our main language that we do majority of our program, and that's universal to our EM ministries, right? As long as they speak that. And so we have a board member that's a Chinese American that's been in the longest, I believe, with us. And so we haven't strategically said, let's figure out a way to reach all, but partnership like this is an opportunity to reach more, without a doubt. So I think next season we probably will look into more partners as probably a goal that Mustard Seed might have to capacity build and enlarge the impact.
Well, you're saying some of those magic words. So thank you so much. We definitely have started a conversation.
Yes.
And we are looking forward to how that will turn into collaborations, partnerships, and other opportunities that we can work together, because we're on the same team. We're
Yes.
Team Jesus, and we love the kingdom
That's
of
right.
God, and we love to see the light shine.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Pastor Jin. It is wonderful talking with you. We'll be praying for Mustard Seed Generation, the first fundraiser, and the programs to come in the years ahead.
Thank you. Look forward to more time with you.
All right. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Erasing Shame. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Erasing Shame podcast. Check out the show notes at erasingshame.com and subscribe to our email for updates. We would love to hear from you, so please add your comments at our website or on social. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app, and you can also subscribe on YouTube or follow on Facebook. Please add a rating and review so we can reach more people with our message of health, hope, and compassion. This podcast is the digital outreach of Christian Asian mental health. Please consider partnering with us by making a tax-deductible donation at erasingshame.com, and together we can resolve the mental health crisis for every person. Thank you.